What's up guys, my name's Brandon and I've been using iOS 14 beta 6 all week, and I wanted to give you guys an update on how it's been running for me on multiple devices, including the iPad. So I know I've kind of neglected the iPad and iPadOS throughout these iOS 14 beta videos, but I got a request in the last video to talk about that more, so that's what I'll be doing in this video and probably for all the forthcoming videos of iOS 14 as well. But anyways, as I always do every single Saturday, I wanted to give you guys an update on how the software has been running for me. We're also going to talk about some additional new features and changes. We're going to talk about the battery life, the performance, bugs, bug fixes, and also when we can expect beta 7 of iOS and iPadOS 14. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the additional new features and changes found in beta 6. So the first one I want to talk about is actually picture-in-picture with YouTube. So as you guys know, picture-in-picture with YouTube is not native in the YouTube application. Like, you can't use the YouTube application and then just go back and it appear on your home screen. You do need a shortcut for that, which I did actually show you guys how to do that. If you did not see that video, it will be linked up in the cards. But a lot of people have been saying that they have picture-in-picture in the YouTube application, and there's been, screen recordings going around. I think Mac Rumors reported on it as well, but I believe that's a bug. I don't think that Apple's actually, or YouTube is actually testing that feature out with iOS 14. I could be wrong, but I just don't see YouTube bringing that to iOS 14, the picture-in-picture from the YouTube application, just because that kind of defeats the purpose of YouTube Premium and, playing in the background. So anyways, I don't think that's happening. That is just a bug. I saw a lot of people talk to me about that as well. But one thing that's actually changed in beta 6 is that 4K videos are not appearing anymore for some people. So if I go ahead and search for one of my videos here, let's just go ahead to my channel here and then go to this. You will see that some people are actually not getting the 4K quality option in settings or inside of the YouTube application. And if you go to quality right here, you can see even myself right here, I am not getting the 4K option, even though this is a 4K video. So that's also something that's kind of disappeared for some people because it used to be on this phone, but now for some reason the 4K option is not available in YouTube. So I'm sure that will come back, but as of right now in beta 6, it is disappearing for some users. Also, the tall news widget, which I mentioned in my What's New video, how I told you guys there's not a really massive news widget anymore. It actually is there, so it doesn't show up right here on the home screen. So when you try to add the widget from the home screen, it does not appear. But if you go over to the widget section of the Today view, all the way over here, and then click on the plus, and then go down to news, you will see that it appears right here. So you do get that big, long news widget, which originally in beta 5, you could, see it from the home screen view, but you couldn't add it to the home screen. You could only add it to the Today view. Now it actually shows up only in the Today view, and you can't even see it when you go to add the widget to the home screen. So Apple just kind of fixed that. We also see some changes inside of the app library. So some of these names are a little bit different here in beta 6 as compared to beta 5 and any previous beta. So some of them, like creativity, that's new. So that used to be named something else. Also, one used to be called lifestyle, and now it's called other. So that's just some minor changes here. I'm not sure why the Tesla app is in other, and they did also move the feedback application to other down there as well. So just some minor tweaking to the app library as expected throughout these betas. That is a new feature in iOS 14. So things like the widgets and the app library, you can expect to see constant changes and improvements to throughout all of these betas. Now, as far as iPadOS, we do also have some new features in iPadOS 14 beta 6. And the first one is actually that you can now use the iPad while using Siri. So Apple actually listened to MKBHD in the interview he did with Craig Federighi. He actually mentioned this, and it seems like Apple actually listened, and you can now interact with your home screen and your device while Siri is active. So let me just show you what I mean. What time is it?
It's 11:40 p.m.
And take a look at this. I can just do anything in the background now. I can move, I can go into a different application, and it's not just stuck there. And I guess the main thing is just being able to go through your screens like this while Siri is up. And that's actually pretty cool. I mean, you couldn't do that before, and it was a big complaint, and now you can do that. You can't do it on iOS, only on iPadOS for now, but that is new here in beta 6. Also, the Spotlight search now shows Siri suggestions. So instead of just having the search bar right there, you now also see Siri suggestions, which is really nice, and it looks very clean, and it's, it helps a lot having those Siri suggestions there. They're actually, pretty well done inside of the Spotlight search here in iPadOS 14 beta 6. Also, if we go into our settings and then go down to Apple Pencil, we have the try scribble button right here. I cannot remember if this has been in previous betas. I'm pretty sure it has. I just don't think I've covered it here on the channel. So this will just basically show you how to use the scribble feature, which I've already shown anyways, but that is pretty much everything that's new on iPadOS 14 beta 6 that's not in iOS 14 beta 6. So I know one of my top liked comments on my last video, on my what's new video in iOS 14 beta 6, was to cover iPadOS. So I want to make sure that all my iPad peeps out there are satisfied with my videos as well. Now, while I have the iPad here, I do also want to talk about some bugs in iOS 14 and iPadOS 14 beta 6. And on the iPad, I've actually had issues with the widgets disappearing. So sometimes I would just tap and hold, and when I went out of it, the widget would just disappear. So this happened with shortcuts, and sometimes it would happen with smart stacks as well. So it's not happening right now. I can't reproduce it every single time, but it appears to happen more with the shortcuts widget and also with the smart stack widget sometimes. So that is a bug I've encountered quite a few times here on beta 6 of iPadOS 14. Also, FaceTime is rather buggy here on iPadOS 14 beta 6. So on iOS, FaceTime is fine. I had a lot of issues with FaceTime throughout the first 4 betas, but it's gotten a lot better in beta 5 and beta 6. But for some reason, on the iPad, the FaceTime application is still pretty buggy. It still crashes for me sometimes when I hang up the phone call. And there's just a little stutter sometimes when I go out and it goes to picture in picture. It just stutters a little bit and freezes a little bit. So I've just had issues with FaceTime on iPadOS, but on iOS, it seems to be fine. Now, going back to iOS, there are also some bugs on iOS 14 beta 6 here as well. And the first one you can actually see on the home screen right there. So I'm not in dark mode right now, but my clock widget is still dark. So that's been a bug for a while, and for some reason it's still not fixed. So the clock and other widgets may not adjust to your dark mode or light mode. So that should be light right now, but it's dark. That is one bug that's been there for a while. But anyways, I do also have issues with the app library. So if we go over to the app library over here, I sometimes, or not sometimes, pretty much every time, I cannot click the first application inside of one of these folders. So on this, it works. But on my main device, my iPhone 11 Pro Max, let me show you what happens. So if I go over to the app library, the first application right here, I cannot click on. Watch this. The first application in every folder, I just simply cannot click on. For some reason, okay, so that one opened for some reason, but not every application I can click on right there for the most part, but the application beside it or below it or diagonal from it, I can click on no problem. As you can see right there, as you can see right there, I can click on all these applications, but for some reason, the first one, I just simply cannot click on. So I've been facing this bug for a little while now, I think for the past 2 or 3 betas, and it's still not fixed here in beta 6. So hopefully Apple does get on that. Also, another really annoying bug I have is inside of messages. So I've been facing this bug since beta 5 and it's still here in beta 6. And it's that text messages sometimes get erased when you switch applications. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm writing a text message right here and pay attention to the text I'm typing. So you can see there it says buying docu, and then I will switch over to a different application, the Robinhood application. And then when I switch back, I'll fast forward through this. When I switch back, take a look at this. So it's still there, and then it just erases for some reason and goes back to what I typed beforehand. So that was actually something I typed in backspace and started typing something else. But for some reason, when I switched applications and switched back, it showed that again, and I had to retype everything I was just typing. So that was really annoying. I've had that again since beta 5, and it's still present here in beta 6. Very annoying, especially if you're typing something long and you switch applications and you go back and all that text you just wrote is gone. It's pretty annoying. I'm also still having issues with Face ID, so it doesn't happen every time, but sometimes Face ID will just simply not be available, or it just won't work and won't register my face, and I just have to type in my password every single time until I reboot the device. So that's been happening as well since I believe beta 4, and that is still present in beta 6. Also, shortcut automations still do not work in beta 6. They haven't worked at all in iOS 14, and beta 6 still does not fix the automations. It says it's running at least now in beta 6. That didn't happen in previous betas, but now, I still don't hear anything. So I don't hear the text I'm supposed to hear, and my automation just doesn't work properly in beta 6. And going back to widgets, you can see here that the Notes widget is always blank. So this happens on every device as well. For some reason, Notes always just shows up blank. And sometimes if you re-add it, it will start showing content. But if it's a pre-existing widget, it will just be blank, which for some reason, that has come back. That was in beta 1 and beta 2, and I believe beta 3, 4, and 5 fixed it, but for some reason in beta 6, notes is now showing up as blank still. Now, I mentioned this in my what's new video, but I've seen a lot of people talk about it, and apparently it happens to every single person with the AirPods, or at least the AirPods Pro. You get this text right here, the center content item, center text, this little placeholder code right there, instead of actually showing your AirPods name and them connecting. So that is clearly a bug, and that will definitely be fixed in the next beta in beta 7. But I just wanted to talk about that because some people have been messaging me asking if I had that, and I showed that in my what's new video, and yes, it's affecting everybody. Now, as far as performance goes in iOS 14 beta 6, it's good, but you can still tell it's a beta. So sometimes I have an issue where applications will just hang, like I'll open them up and they'll just hang, and sometimes I can't interact for like 2 or 3 seconds. So there's still a little bit of stutter here. You can tell it's a beta, but overall, things are fine. I mean, it's a beta, I know that, so I'm not really expecting too much from the performance side of things. Games run fine, games play perfectly fine. You know, social media is good for the most part. It's just that sometimes applications will hang. I've not had any random reboots, not even a random respring. So on that side of things, everything has been good, but just the slight hang in applications would have to be my only complaint. Now, as far as the iPad Pro and iPadOS 14 beta 6, things are really good over here on iPadOS 14 beta 6. Now, clearly, I don't use this as much as my iPhone, but I do use it pretty much every single day for multiple hours out of the day. So I definitely have noticed a big improvement in the stability in iOS 14 through the betas, especially going from beta 4 to beta 5 to beta 6. It just seems very solid here on iPadOS 14 beta 6. Of course, the only thing that's really annoying to me are the widget bugs and how sometimes, you know, it'll disappear when I tap and hold on it and let go. But that's really not going to be something that's going to, you know, make your day terrible. You know, it's not something that's going to, you know, you're going to complain too much about because you don't really interact with the widgets that much like that. So as far as playing games and just, you know, raw performance wise, everything is perfectly fine here for me on both iOS and iPadOS 14 beta 6, which is great news because it's just going to keep getting better from here on out until the final release. Now, as far as battery life goes, battery life on iOS and iPadOS 14 beta 6 is pretty good, but it's still not quite on iOS or iPadOS 13 levels. So for some reason, the battery life on my iPad seems to not be getting better as gradually, I guess, as iOS. So my iOS battery, I can actually see, you know, improvements over these betas more than I can on the iPad, if that makes sense. So iPadOS 14 beta 6 feels exactly the same as like iPadOS 14 like beta 3 or beta 4 to me. Whereas iPhone, and maybe it's just because I use the iPhones more, it seems like bigger improvements and more noticeable improvements to the battery life over these, you know, smaller betas. So I don't know, it could just be because I use the iPhone more, like I said, but it's not anything to complain about. The battery life is not bad at all on iOS 14 beta 6. I don't have any battery drain at all on any of the devices I use, whereas I did have, you know, battery issues on the earlier beta. So it's come a long way, and I think it will start getting better as well here very soon if you are having battery drain issues on your iPad or your iPhone. And I've been reading your guys' comments as well, and a lot of you guys actually have had better experience with battery life on beta 6 compared to beta 5, and it was actually pretty noticeable to a lot of you guys as well. And speaking of your guys' input, let's go ahead and take a look at the community poll over on the channel. So if you guys go to my channel here and then go over to the community tab, every single week I post a poll here to ask you guys how the latest beta or even the public release, like for iOS 13 sometimes, I'll ask about that as well, so everybody's included. But I asked, how has iOS 14 beta 6 been for you? And leave a comment with your device. So for me, I would vote as good, just some minor bugs, just because there are some annoying bugs, which I showed you guys in this video. And that is the most, you know, voted on right there as well, aside from just simply not being on iOS 14. So 17%, and this was just 4 hours ago, almost 6,000 votes. So I appreciate you guys who voted. Of course, more votes will start going in and more comments as well. So if you guys want to read this at all, just head over to the community tab and you can read through all these comments as well. I've read through pretty much every single one of them and we'll talk about those in a minute. But anyways, 17% on excellent compared to 15%. So the excellent has gone up since beta 5. 26% on good, that is up as well. 4% on decent, that is down. And 2% on terrible, that's the same as beta 5. Of course, less votes, but still you can see the ratio there. It's pretty good. So some pretty good results that you guys are having with beta 6. So let's go ahead and read some of these comments here as well to see what you guys have to say about beta 6. So Marcus here says that battery life on his iPhone SE 2020 has improved immensely from beta 5. And you can see 12 thumbs up there, and also multiple people agreeing with them in the comments as well. So if you did have battery issues on beta 5 or any previous beta on the iPhone SE 2020, which I have a video coming on that very soon, by the way, then you should see a nice improvement here in beta 6. Somebody's mentioning the AirPods issue that I talked about there as well. You can see here, Zach also says, going strong on iPhone 8, only minor bugs here and there. Battery life has been better than previous betas for me. So as you can see, a lot of people are reporting much better battery life here on beta 6. Another one talking about battery life improving on the iPhone 7. Slight freezes, like when I hit the home action, it stutters for half a second. So that sounds similar to what I was talking about earlier in this video as well. Kind of my only hang up with the performance here in beta 6 is that slight little stutter and that slight lag when you open up an application sometimes. Jay here says that he's on the 10R and it's good, no bugs. Even my mom says it's good and she's on the 6S. Edit, by far my battery has gotten better from it as well. So you can see here, someone's commenting here saying that the battery life was good in beta 3 and beta 5, but hasn't been so great on beta 6. So that's interesting. Of course, there are always going to be varying results and opinions on the battery life in these betas. Super Cyro here is having issues with the AirPods Pro not automatically connecting every time, so they have to manually connect every time. I've not had that. I did have that in previous betas though, so I know that is a bug, so apparently it may not be fixed for everybody. Nikki here is so impressed with this beta that he may stay on this until the GM release. He says battery life is great and everything as well. Another comment on the SE 2020 being great. And then we also have the opposite end of the spectrum, like I just mentioned. So Wilfredo says that sadly my iPhone XS keeps rebooting randomly. So that's an issue that I have not had since the very first beta, and it only happened one time to me. So that may be an issue deeper than just iOS 14 beta. So I would maybe look into that and maybe just restore your device. The Flash here says that I hope they fix Pokemon Go crashing and add an always on display. So a lot of people always ask me about Pokemon Go as well. And like I've said numerous times, I would not expect Pokemon Go to work until the final official release of iOS 14 is pushed out. I think that's when Niantic will release an update for iOS 14 for Pokemon Go. And then finally, here's Bing Pot's comment. He always leaves some nice detailed comments here as well, which I really appreciate. So he says that battery life hasn't improved a lot for him, and he's on the 10R by the way. A lot of apps have bugs such as YouTube and Instagram in performance. I've not actually had any issues in YouTube or Instagram. Autocorrect is still wacky, so that is one thing also that I will say. Autocorrect has been off really ever since iOS 14 beta 1, so hopefully that will get fixed. I just got tired of saying that in every single beta. AirPods are having some more problems, but instead of randomly disconnect, sometimes when I switch the output to my phone speakers, it automatically reconnects and plays audio in AirPods, and then there's also that connection text bug. So more issues with the AirPods here in iOS 14. He also goes on to say connectivity is going great. That modem firmware update helped a lot. So that is one thing also I wanted to mention. So a lot of people did also report that they have less drop calls and just better connectivity overall. They can even hear people better, is from what I heard in some of the comments. So that modem firmware update definitely made an improvement to some devices. And then he says performance throughout the system has been great and no major bugs with widgets besides the clock widget light to dark feature, which I mentioned in this video. So thanks a lot for that comment. You always leave nice detailed comments on these community poll posts. So that's what you guys had to say about the software. Overall, I would say 95% of people had a great experience inside the comments on both my What's New video and also in that poll. But as you guys saw from the poll, the results here, everybody's having still some minor bugs, but of course it's a beta, so a lot of people are expecting that. So a lot of people are saying good things about this beta compared to previous beta. So that's always good to hear. We are on the 6th beta, and I would expect at least a few more betas as well. So that is great news that things are getting a lot more stable, especially after seeing beta 4, how much of a train wreck that was. So again, I don't think that's ever going to happen again. So from here on out, it should be pretty much smooth sailing, like I mentioned in one of my videos. That was the title of one of my recent videos. Now, finally, let's talk about iOS 14 beta 7 and when we can expect to see that. So I would expect to see iOS 14 beta 7 next week. So the week of the 31st, we will probably see it on either September 1st or September 2nd. So Apple has really liked those Tuesday releases, but since it's the first of the month, I don't know, Apple is weird sometimes with the release dates. So I would say the September 1st or 2nd would be when we see iOS 14 beta 7. And just like we saw with beta 6, we can probably expect to see the public beta on the same day as the developer beta as well, now that we're on that 1 week cycle. So that is also good news for public beta testers. Oh, and then I also wanted to mention that iOS 13.7, the final release, actually could be released next week as well. So we may even see that on, the second, third, or maybe even the fourth. Apple doesn't usually do Friday releases, but anything is possible really with Apple these days. So I would say that next week we could see iOS 13.7 because, as you guys know, last week as a random, release, Apple released iOS 13.7 to both developers and to public beta testers as a beta, but it was like a GM of 13.7. It was really weird. So I would expect to see 13.7 next week. If not next week, then probably the week after, the week of the 7th at the latest. But be on the lookout for that next week as well. And if you guys aren't in my Discord server, I always talk about this kind of stuff in there. And also if you're not following me on Twitter, I always talk about that stuff over there as well. So if you guys are not following me on any social medias or in the Discord server or anything like that, those links are down in the description below as well. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. And of course, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss any of my future iOS 14 releases. Video releases, of course. I wish I could release iOS 14 software. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.